it seems to me completely obvious why we should take care of the earth and the environment, because we don't just live in our house, we live in the whole world. Then it seems that we human beings should just automatically take care of our environment because it's the place we live in.
This video is just a short introduction into Sravasti Abbey's environmental protection activities. If we want to practice the Dharma, we actually need a healthy environment. In order to protect the environment, we need a lot of practice, of endurance, of joyous effort, compassion, love, and wisdom. Having a great motivation of bodhicitta, wishing to become a Buddha, to really know what can help sentient beings, to progress along the path to Buddhahood as well. And one of the practices that we can apply are the 6 parameters of generosity, ethical conduct, joyous effort, fortitude, concentration, and wisdom. And we will show you with this video how Sravasti Abbey is applying the 6 parameters in environmental protection in different areas, from recycling to repair to water management and forest management. Thank you.
So if you look at the field over here, it's a field that we just purchased and we haven't worked on yet. And you can see that it's covered in a noxious weed called knapweed that basically takes over all the native grasses, and it also leaches nutrients out of the soil, making it really difficult for anything to grow if it's still there. So here at the Abbey, one of the things we've been doing for many years is to help restore the meadows. And if you look over here, right, through all these efforts of mowing the old knapweed, of harrowing the ground and planting new seed of native grass, you can see some of the grasses have started to come back in this area. And we also pull by hand, so it's very labor intensive. But just looking at the difference between these two fields, you can see this effort is totally worth it. Just after a number of years, the soil naturally starts to regain its health, and the native grasses can come back, and the meadows look the way that they should. They're very beautiful, and they're not overgrown with weeds anymore.
And then if we show that, and there's a sense of compassion for others behind it, there's a sense of our own ethical integrity that is motivating us to do this, then others will follow suit. If they don't follow suit, at least we're helping.
We do many things to try to help our wildlife friends here at the Abbey. One of them is to feed the birds in the wintertime. And we also feed the deer so that they have extra nutrients to survive the harsh winters. We also feed some of the turkeys and support birds by having different bird houses and trees that have snags, and which are houses for the birds. We also make sure that our cats aren't killing any of the chipmunks or other animals that live right around the Abbey. We definitely like to live in harmony and support whatever wildlife species that we can, so that we can live in harmony with our neighbors and friends.
And so this can become, in Buddhist terms, it can become a process of learning renunciation. Yeah, one of the first three principal aspects of the path. That we are, and renunciation doesn't mean you give up pleasure. It means you give up suffering. You renounce suffering, so you renounce the causes of suffering. Okay? So we're willing to give a few things up in order to have a cleaner world and help ourselves and help others.
The water is a very precious resource at the Abbey. We live in a very dry area, and we draw all of our water from 2 underground wells. We lived through a drought this past year, but even before that, we take a lot of precautions so that we don't waste water. So one of the ways that we do that is through our dishwashing system. We do them all by hand. And so I want to show you our system. It consists of 3 tubs. The first tub has hot water for washing the dishes. The second has warm water for rinsing the dishes. And then the third tub has water which contains bleach to sterilize the dishes. And we can wash dishes for up to 60 people using this system. So another way that we save water at the Abbey is that we capture all of the water we use to rinse fruits and vegetables in a bowl. So then we'll take this bowl outside and pour it in the garden in front of the meditation hall. In the Tibetan tradition, we make offerings of water to the Buddha every day. So at the end of the day, when we take down the altar, we pour the water from these bowls into a bucket, and then we take this outside to water the plants.
Sravasti Abbey, we try and bring our environmentalism, our awareness of environmentalism into the kitchen as much as possible. So one way that we do try and reduce the amount of plastic and trash that we're generating is requesting things in bulk. And also an awareness of how we use the food that we cook. We try and repurpose leftovers very carefully so that we're not throwing things away. We also have a 3-tiered compost system that we carefully maintain throughout the year. We also try and eat seasonally, aware of what's available locally so that we're not demanding things that involve a lot of fuel to get it to us. We do have some very kind local supporters that bring us food from local markets as well. That really cuts down on fuel used to transport food and also packaging. We have some orchards here, pears, apples, plums, cherries, a small garden depending on availability of people's time each year that we use and we eat. We process it into apple and plum sauce, rhubarb, and then we freeze it and we eat it all throughout the winter, which as well cuts down on the food that we're requesting. And of course, in general, our whole kitchen is vegetarian. Some of us are vegan, so we just trying to bring compassion into our kitchen as much as possible.
And welcome to our recycling center. Sorting the recycling is a practice of fortitude because there are many different places where people can put the stuff, and it's helpful when they put it in the right bin. So we have aluminum here at the top. We have mixed plastic in here, which includes a lot of tofu containers, yogurt containers, kind of tubs generally. Number 1 and 2 plastics include things like juice bottles, honey containers. We also have metal cans. And then we have aseptic containers, which are these things. We love our soy milk here and almond milk and all sorts of non-dairy milks, cardboard and paper, plastic bags. We have these a place for clamshells, have a place for glass, and then we have a place for toilet paper rolls, which actually we'll burn in the winter and use as fire starters. The real key to this whole system is one of our lay friends. We have a network of people who support the Abbey and actually come and will take the recycling and recycle it for us. And we couldn't do any of this without their support. Recycling really is this practice of generosity to try and have an earth that's a home for future generations. And so the more we can reduce and reuse in addition to recycling, it really adds to that generosity and support of the earth. And there is a resource, earth911.com, that can help you find recycling centers and how to recycle or dispose of hazardous materials in a proper way.
So somehow how we think of the economy and the importance of growth, we have to change that more to really see how interdependent we are and to care about ourselves and our own family, but not only that, care about all the living beings.
Hello. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of resources, really. Some main things we can do to use less resources, just to use less things and be more content. And when we do use things that we're done with, some of them can be recycled. Sometimes we get things and they break and we can just fix them. And here's a couple examples. This garden hoe, this stem just goes in it. The wood shrinks at some point, it falls out. I just epoxy it back together. I think that's probably going to hold real well. Sometimes people just put a screw in there and drill into that tang to hold it in place. It's not a hard job. Some things we're mostly familiar with, a lot of us, they're easy. You have a tire this is a tire off a generator, but I have a tire and the tube needs patched. It's a very easy little thing to do in 2 minutes. It's a bicycle tire patch. Also, somebody put some lamps down here because they weren't working properly. This top piece here can be replaced without throwing the whole thing away. It's a very nice piece of glass or ceramic. And in general, we have things around here that we fix a lot. Sometimes I fix things in the kitchen, doorknobs, pots. Sometimes just need a handle put back on them, or the handle's gone. Sometimes I make a little wooden knob for the lid. Just being creative, and there's something breaks. Look on YouTube. A lot of times people make videos that show you how to fix everything. And it's just being mindful. I think being content to begin with and not using so much stuff is a very good thing. But fixing things can be fun, and it saves a lot of resources and a lot of space in the landfill.
Hi everybody, I'm Semke, and I'm standing in front of a cedar snag that we found at the Abbey maybe about 10, 11 years ago as we were thinning and removing the fuels. And that it is a reminder or a remnant of a fire that came through this land in 1910. That's the last time there was a catastrophic fire in our neck of the woods due to some intentional event. And it was during a very, very drought-ridden summer. That fire consumed over 3 million acres of forest. As we have found a number of these snags in our forest. And we have a little plaque that reminds us of the impermanence of life. But also this snag reminds us that as the stewards of the land of Sravasti Abbey, that we really want to prioritize making sure that we can keep the forest fire safe, healthy, so that it can really have a fighting chance when a catastrophic fire comes into this neck of the woods. And as we say around here, it's not if, but when. And in order to take care of the forest for the past 17 years, we've had, I figure I can almost easily say, over 1,000 people, guests, volunteers, experts. The Washington State Department of Natural Resources have come with a lot of joy, expertise, and skill to help us to sort of remove a lot of the fuels, limb the trees, thin the crown, so that we can give the forest a fighting chance. We also have innumerable amounts of species of wildlife, little creatures, big creatures, small and big. And by extension, if we were to make this place a little bit more fire safe, our neighbors by extension will have some protection as far as their lands go when a fire comes. So we do this with a lot of joyous effort. We hope to do it for many, many years to come, and not do this without your support, your enthusiasm, and your encouragement. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts and every living being who lives at the Abbey property.
It becomes a practice of compassion and bodhicitta, the second of the 3 principal aspects of the path, because we do it for all sentient beings, because we all are in this together. Yeah. And we have responsibility for future generations, not only of human beings, but of the future generations of all the different species.
The Abbey's vegetable garden doesn't grow enough food to actually supply all the needs of the community, but we're happy to do what we can to supplement during the summer, especially when we see a lot of guests come through. Even though our precepts don't allow us to garden, we're following the Chinese tradition where it was, many centuries years ago, it was the necessity for the monastics to be able to do gardening to feed themselves. Here in the United States, many people ask us if we have a garden and feed ourselves. It's like an important part of the culture. And so for the sake of the lay people too, we let them know that we're doing organic gardening here and we take care of the food as best we can in the summertime. The rest of the time, we're totally dependent on our supporters to feed us.
And it becomes a practice of wisdom, the third principal aspects of the path, because we want to abandon polluting the world. We want to practice with wisdom to create other sources of energy, to be a considerate neighbor. Okay, so we're wise about what to practice and abandon. And, we see the wisdom in this situation.
We're going to be using these Foswell blocks to build the wall system for the Buddha Hall. And like Chenrezig Hall, which I'm sitting right beside, this is a very green material. You can see that there's bits of brown in the block. So it's actually 85% smashed up wood pallets and 15% cement. It is an incredibly strong system because the rebar, the blocks are actually going to be stacked in this way, but I wanted you to see the holes. They'll be stacked this way on top of each other. So the rebar will be put into the blocks and then it'll be filled with cement. So this will be a wonderful prevention for insects coming in. They can't do it. It's very fire safe. The fire won't burn this wall system. And the R value of these blocks, the walls are going to be 12 inches wide. So heat stays in the winter and the heat of the sun in the summer stays out. It's fantastic. So as you can see in the clearing, just through here, that's Prajna Cottage. And then on the roof of Prajna, there's 18 solar panels. This is the first project, the first of many, where we're using solar. And these solar panels are tying into the grid of the Pondere County Utility District. So in the first 3 years, we were getting a large return on the power we were generated due to this renewal program that they have. But even now, since the 3-year period has finished, every month we're generating power that's fed to the PUD, and they use it, and then we get a little bit of a financial reward. So again, this is the first of many projects.
So let's take care of each other and all the living beings by taking care of the place where we live. And let's take it as our own responsibility to do that.